Good evening, America. Drew Hernandez with the Lives Matter official podcast. I want to welcome you guys. There is too much to talk about with too little time. If you're tuning in from another podcast, if you're tuning in from Twitter or from Instagram, or you're just finding yourself surfing YouTube and you find yourself in this podcast, I want to welcome you guys. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We will be doing some super chats at the end. If you guys have a comment or you have something you want to say at this podcast, I see to it that I answer every single one of your super chats. I don't leave anyone unaddressed. So if you guys would like to leave one now, you guys can do it now. You can do it later in the show. My son is here, Baby Yoda. He's very handsome. Thank you guys for acknowledging the obvious. He's way better looking than I am. But there's so much going on. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and share this video on Twitter, share it on Facebook, reshare it wherever you can, wherever you could post a link. Send it in iMessage, send it through a text message, because, you know, we are being censored. You know, sometimes we see people in the comments and they're like, oh, you YouTubers just peddle conspiracy theories of being censored and deboosted and you just say that so more people watch you. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, we say that because it's actually happening, but we don't say it because we're grifting to get more views. We say that to state the obvious so people understand that, hey, not only does my voice get suppressed, but your ears get suppressed and closed from hearing a possibly differing of an opinion or even hearing the truth. And if you don't believe me by now, where have you been today? Tons of information. Some seems to be possibly alleged. Some seems to be pretty much corroborated with some pretty serious people regarding the Biden, literally the Biden scandal that's going on with Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. Tons of information that was released into the world today, throughout the internet today, indicating very clearly that Joe Biden has been lying about his son and his involvement with the Ukrainian government. Okay? A lot of stuff that's been coming out. Some call it alleged, some call it confirmed. The reason why this is important is because Joe Biden, even on the presidential debate stage in tons of different interviews, has been vehemently opposing the accusation that he or his son has had any kind of dealings with the Ukrainian government, any personal, private dealings outside of him being the vice president of the United States. Now, why is that important? Because that would make Joe Biden the very thing that the left has been accusing Donald Trump of being, using his power, his presidential office, his elected office for personal private gain, foreign and abroad. They've accused Donald Trump of doing this. They have accused the Trump administration abuse of power, right? Throwing his power around, intimidating foreign governments, which that has already been corroborated. The Biden administration wants to cover this, but Joe Biden is on record, on YouTube, it's recorded, admitting that he was intimidating the Ukrainian government. He was intimidating, he was threatening them, saying, if you don't fire this certain prosecutor, you don't get X amount, billions of dollars amount of money. That's exactly what the left was accusing Donald Trump of doing just a few months ago. If you guys remember, they wanted to impeach Donald Trump. They failed with the Russia probe because it was fake. There is literally even the investigators themselves that investigated Trump to try and corroborate any kind of Russian interference admitted that there was not enough evidence to suggest that the Trump administration had any kind of illegal dealings with Russia. Okay? There wasn't sufficient enough evidence. What am I saying? What I'm saying is they failed with Russiagate, right? They failed with Russiagate. It didn't stick with the American people, at least not some of them. It didn't stick in Congress. It wasn't enough. They investigated the Trump administration and they concluded that there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to say that the Trump administration colluded with Russia. That's how it ended. So that failed. So a couple months later, what was next? The Ukraine gate, whatever you want to call it. They're saying there's this hidden phone call with Donald Trump, with the Ukrainian president. And Donald Trump is threatening the Ukrainian president, withholding aid. He's abusing his power. And he's obstructing Congress by trying to cover it up. You guys remember that? And that actually made it to a vote. Not even the Russian hoax. The Russian hoax didn't make it to a vote because there wasn't enough evidence. Even Democrats know this. So they went from the Russian hoax to the Ukraine scandal. They accused Donald Trump of, it was abuse of power, very specifically abusing his power. They were the quid pro quo. They were accusing Donald Trump of abusing his power by threatening the Ukrainian government, withholding aid from them unless they give him what he wants. Dirt on the Joe Biden campaign. Remember that? And they wanted to literally, that was the grounds of impeachment for Donald. And they did impeach Donald Trump. Technically and legally, Donald Trump was impeached, but only through Congress. But thank God, there are still some sane-minded people in the Senate that did what was right, and Donald Trump wasn't fully removed from office, which the Senate would have to confirm. What am I saying? What I'm saying is, I'm just trying to bring you guys back up to speed. The Democrats and the left were accusing Donald Trump of abuse of power. They were accusing Donald Trump of abusing his power by withholding aid from the Ukrainian government. That's exactly, with proven videographic evidence, that's exactly what Joe Biden did as the vice president of the United States, or he claimed and boasted that he did. What am I saying? Anyone can watch this. Anyone. You can watch the clip on YouTube. You can watch the full interview on YouTube of Joe Biden boasting in the fact that he intimidated the Ukrainian government and told them if they don't get rid of that guy, speaking of this prosecutor that was looking into the company that Hunter Biden was ahead of. I'm going to get into all of this, that Hunter Biden and the Biden family were ahead of. This prosecutor was investigating this. Joe Biden boasts in the fact that he pressured the Ukrainian government and told them, if you don't get rid of this prosecutor, you guys are not going to get the millions of dollars or whatever the aid is that they yearly get. That's exactly what they were accusing Donald Trump of doing, which had zero evidence, no video. Even the phone call didn't even prove so. It was all alleged. It was all accusations. All he said, she said, I think she said. If you guys watched any of those Senate hearings, you guys remember that? You guys remember the Senate hearings of the impeachment of Donald Trump and even the congressional hearings? No solid evidence. It was all, I think I heard, like, through a wall. Like the most ridiculous allegations that had zero corroborating evidence. No video, nothing. No audio, nothing. We have videographic evidence of Joe Biden admitting that he threatened the Ukrainian government by withholding some kind of American aid if he didn't get what he wanted. That is a quid pro quo. That is an abuse of power from a vice president of the United States of America. Yet they accuse Donald Trump of doing what Joe Biden has already done under Obama as the vice president. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And details have come out that Hillary Clinton was involved, that Obama was briefed, that Hillary Clinton was afraid of the email scandal in 2016. This all ties together. Hillary Clinton knew that the writing was on the wall in 2016. She was going to be indicted. She should have been indicted by the FBI. But James Comey sat there and told the entire country, literally, I remember those hearings. He told them, we have enough evidence. There is confidential information on here that she shouldn't be having. It's there. It's classified information. But it's not enough to indict her. Let her go scot-free. What am I saying? Hillary Clinton knew that the writing was on the wall, and the Trump administration was utilizing the Clinton email scandal as an attack on her during the 2016 presidential election. So Hillary Clinton responded by conjuring up Russiagate. That's facts. I'm not telling you anything that's not true. This has all come out. This has all been declassified. And Obama was briefed about it. Obama knew about this. The Democrat Party knew that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign in 2016 was going to conjure up the Russia hoax in order to smear Trump so that she could win. She conjured up the administration. I don't want to call it the administration. I guess you can call it that. The campaign conjured up a lie that led to an impeachment attempt because the Russia hoax failed. All the division came from that. It came from them. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that Hillary Clinton knew the writing was on the wall. So she responded with something in 2016 and shortly after. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is what politicians do. They go back and forth. They find dirt on each other. How far they really go, I think we're starting to see just how far they really go. But they knew that something needed to be done. And the reason why the connection between Clinton and Biden is so important is because right now in 2020, okay, Joe Biden and the writing on the wall is there for him as well now too. What they do is they accuse their enemy of either what they are planning on doing or what they are doing themselves. They create a lie. This is all declassified information. People that don't know this or think that what I'm saying is a conspiracy theory are people that haven't even taken a look at what's been declassified in the past 2 weeks. So now Biden is in the same position. So the Democrat Party and the left has been accusing Donald Trump from the very beginning of a lie and everything that they themselves have been doing. I think it was in 2015 when Joe Biden was threatening the Ukrainian government. Quid pro quo, the same thing they wanted to impeach Donald Trump for. What was it for? Abuse of power, for intimidating the Ukrainian government. by withholding aid. Joe Biden in 2015, this is a fact, the vice president of the United States under Barack Obama did the exact same thing. He did it. It's on camera. He boasts about it. What am I saying? Donald Trump is being accused of the very same thing that they themselves have done. This is something they do. This is not a biased opinion. This is what they have done, and this is what they continue to do. And it led all the way up until an impeachment success. They impeached the president of the United States. It went to the Senate, and it failed, and it bombed, and it died because there was no grounding evidence. Even Democrats in the Senate understood this. There wasn't enough. So he wasn't removed from office. It died, and it failed. But these lies lead up, and they divide the country to the point that is absolutely, there's no turning back with our tribalism. There's no turning back with how divided we've become. Anytime you go outside and you ask people, why don't you like Donald Trump? Oh, because he colluded with Russia. It turns out, and it's been declassified, that that was literally a campaign smear that the Clinton campaign conjured up in 2016 against Trump. It was a lie from the beginning. And now our country is divided, and the propaganda has gotten so bad. You have a bunch of lemmings and Democrats and leftists out there that actually believe that that was true, when in reality, even Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign, they made it up in order to smear Trump and win the election. They didn't think that it would actually go this far. They didn't believe that Donald Trump would win the election. That's why they went with such an absurd an absolute extreme lie. That lie was not meant to go past Donald Trump winning the election. You understand that, right? That lie was meant to smear Trump once and for all because they didn't believe he would win. But they knew that the writing was on the wall for Hillary because of her email scandal in 2015 and 2016. Are you guys with me? You understand this? It all makes sense now. All of the declassified information, it all adds up. And we've been divided. Families have been divided. Marriages have been divided. Friendships. Schools. People have bought the lie of the Russian hoax. And it all was a campaign smear from the Clinton campaign in 2016. And it led to this. And it led to a sham false Russia hoax. Do you guys remember? What was the outcome? What was the outcome? What was the outcome of Russiagate? You guys remember? It was a sham. The investigator, Robert Mueller himself, concluded that there wasn't sufficient evidence to charge the president with a crime in regards or correlation to what? To the Trump administration colluding with Russia. Fact. That was the conclusion. Why? Because it was never real to begin with. And here we are. We've been divided so bad. The errors of our country. This is where we are now. The point I'm trying to make, and I'm trying to give you some extremely in-depth context because this all ties in to what happened today. Today, the Biden campaign they must be running around with their friggin' heads cut off with this information that's coming out. Because the Biden campaign has been trying to hide the fact that they did exactly, that Joe Biden and his son did exactly what they have been accusing Donald Trump of doing, which is what? Abusing his presidential, vice presidential elected position's power, abusing it towards a foreign government. Why doesn't the Biden campaign want this out? Because it shows that they have done exactly what they've been accusing Donald Trump of. They tried to impeach him. It went all the way to the Senate over an abuse of power and an obstruction of Congress. But the one they really wanted to get to stick was the abuse of power. Like, dude, just think about how crazy this is. It's one thing if like Joe Biden did this to Israel or if Joe Biden did this to, it's funny how God works. Your sins will find you out. Your hypocrisy will show. It'll come out. And I just find it so crazy. Like, it's one thing if Joe Biden did this to like Israel or some, somewhere in Europe or some other foreign country. It's one thing if Joe Biden did this quid pro quo or abused his vice presidential power to someone else, but don't you just find it insanely ironic that it is literally to the T what they accuse Donald Trump of doing? To the T. The only difference is that Donald Trump is the president and Joe Biden was the current sitting vice president. Same country, same people, same situation. What's the difference? Joe Biden is corrupt as hell. He's one of the most wealthy politicians to date in America. And Joe Biden's going to sit there and talk to you like he understands where you're coming from and how you have, middle class problems and he understands what it's like to live like the middleman right now. Maybe he does from his past. But how the hell is Black Lives Matter going to relate to a guy like Joe and Hunter Biden, multi-millionaires? All made through scandals. It came out today. All kinds of raunchy, pornographic. Dude, Hunter Biden's freaking crazy, bro. This guy's insane, doing cocaine, making all kinds of pornographic video. Like, all I know is that this is not what you want to come out. Like when you are running for the when you're running for the president of the United States of America. What am I saying? What I'm saying is October surprise. That's what I'm saying. And I want to point out a couple things about this. The reason why that the Biden campaign, that this is really bad news for them, is because this exposes that they have been doing everything they've been accusing Trump of doing. And this also exposes just how deep the corruption of the Biden family really goes. They lie about this stuff. Joe Biden says we have nothing to do with Ukraine. And now all this damning evidence comes out proving, looks like Joe's lying. Why would you lie? Because it clearly shows that you are a liar and it's an abuse of power and you're using the office of the vice president of the United States for personal gain. Can't do that. You cannot do that. That's not how this works. So I have a couple articles. Let's look at Facebook's reaction to this. The president retweeted this today. Let me get this up real quick. The president himself retweeted this today. Facebook, Twitter make editorial decisions. That's a whole other podcast. Are they an editor? Are they a publisher? What are they? This is why Facebook and Twitter get away with whatever they want to do. I'll explain this right now. Facebook, Twitter make editorial decisions to limit distribution of story claiming to show smoking gun. Sorry, I have to make this bigger real quick because I can't see it. Of story claiming to show smoking gun. Emails related to Biden and his son. Facebook and Twitter decided to limit the distribution of a New York Post story. They were killing it everywhere on Twitter and on Facebook. You couldn't post it. And I'm going to point something out about this because you might be like, oh, well, what if it's not true? Oh, really? Is that your logic? Let me address you and push back on that thinking in just a moment. Facebook and Twitter decided to limit the distribution of a New York Post story that claims to show, in parentheses, smoking gun emails related to Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and his son. The editorial decision to reduce the spread of the story, which provides minimal evidence, is a significant one for Facebook. The social media company has long professed to stand for freedom of speech and rejected the idea that it can be an arbiter of truth. Yes, that's what they claim. Facebook and Twitter on Wednesday limited the distribution of a New York Post story that claims to show smoking gun emails to Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and his son. And I quote, "While I will intentionally not link to the New York Post, I want to be clear that this story is eligible to be fact-checked by Facebook's third-party fact-checking partners." Oh, wow. tweeted Andy Stone, a spokesman for Facebook. In the meantime, we are reducing its distribution on our platform. I'll point out all the hypocrisy in this right now. Okay. Oh, it sounds so virtuous. Yeah, let's make sure that this stuff is true before we allow it on the internet. Okay, let's say I agree with you for 1 second, but why didn't you do that when Trump's tax returns were were released on the internet? I didn't see anybody fact checking that. I didn't see anybody deleting the link within minutes, within hours. I don't see Twitter or Facebook doing anything like that. This aggressively. Why does Joe Biden get special treatment? Because Facebook and Twitter is biased and they try and act like they're not. Because they're liars. The unverified story alleges then Vice President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, attempted to introduce to a top executive at a Ukrainian company Hunter Biden worked for to his father. That discredits everything Joe Biden has ever said about him and his son. Can't be doing private, shady business dealings with a foreign government while you're the vice president of the United States. That's why Vice President Joe Biden denies it. But here it is, showing that it's not necessarily true, what Uncle Joey is telling us. Andrew Bates, spokesman for the Biden campaign, responded to the New York Post story in a statement. Investigations by the press during impeachment and even by 2 Republican-led Senate committees whose work was decried as not legitimate and political by a GOP colleague have all reached the same conclusion, that Joe Biden carried out official U.S. policy toward Ukraine and engaged in no wrongdoing. That's exactly what Donald Trump did. Literally what Donald Trump, the same thing. This makes no sense. Trump administration officials have attested to these facts under oath, Bates said. The New York Post never asked the Biden campaign about the critical elements of this story, as if they're going to give you the truth. He added, they certainly never raised that Rudy Giuliani, whose discredited conspiracy theories and alliance with figures connected to Russian intelligence have been widely reported, claimed to have such materials. Moreover, we have reviewed Joe Biden's official schedules from the time, and no meeting has alleged by the New York Post ever took place. Okay. So then why is Hunter Biden still trying to get them to meet? You guys got to read the actual article. I don't know if I'm allowed to put it up on YouTube. President Donald Trump took to Twitter Wednesday evening to criticize the social network's decision to limit the distribution of the story. In his tweet, Trump called for a repeal of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. A rule protects tech companies from liability over the content posted by users on their online services while allowing them to moderate it. I'll explain that right now as well. So terrible that Facebook, and I quote the president said, so terrible that Facebook and Twitter took down the story of smoking gun emails related to sleepy Joe Biden and his son, Hunter. In the New York Post, Trump tweeted, it is only the beginning for them. There is nothing worse than a corrupt politician. Repeal Section 230. Wow. Let me, I want to make 2 points. I want to make 2 points about this. I want to make 2 points with you guys about this this scandal that Facebook finds themselves in Twitter. Let's apply their logic to the Trump campaign. How many times, with all of the deranged accusations and stories that are made up about Donald Trump, how many times have you heard Twitter or Facebook come to the Trump campaign or the Trump administration's aid, like they are Joe Biden right now, and saying, oh, no one reached out to the Joe Biden campaign. We have to verify that these accusations are actually accurate and true. We have to fact check this before we can allow it on the internet. We have to make sure that what's being said about Donald Trump right now, whatever the accusation is, we went through 2 impeachment attempts, all kinds of crazy ass conspiracy theories for the past 4 years. How many times did you see Twitter or Facebook give the treatment to Donald Trump when he was being accused on the internet of a whole host of things that turned out to not be true? How many times did you see Facebook or Twitter defend the Trump administration like they are Joe Biden today, where they were literally taking down links to major news publications, saying that we got to verify this before we allow it on our platform? Name one. Show me. They don't do it because they have a political agenda. They want their guy in. They're still pissed off and they can't get over 2016, and they will not. And all the Google documents that came out post 2016, they were all indicating what? We will never let this happen ever again. A Trump administration will never happen again. That was big tech's mandate and promise to the left after 2016. They took responsibility for the L as if it was their fault, and they didn't suppress enough information on the internet. What am I saying? The point I'm trying to make is I find it interesting that big tech, Twitter, Facebook, they play this virtue card. Oh, we want to be the arbiters of truth. We want to make sure that we have accurate information flooding our platforms on Twitter and Facebook. We don't want fake news. So we have to make sure that what's being said about Vice President Biden doesn't see the light of day because we don't have credible evidence that that article is actually true. Oh, really? So how come you don't do that for Donald Trump? Question. Why do you have such a bias against the Trump administration? Why hasn't Donald Trump gotten the president of the United States? Why hasn't the president of the United States received the same virtuous arbiter of truth fact-checking treatment as Joe Biden and every single leftist gets on social media? You guys know the answer to that question because they're biased and they're hypocrites and they want to rig the election. This is election interference, period. It's funny because they claim to want to be these virtue signaling, honorable, big tech, big brothers that are watching over. We are going to take care of the presidential election. We are going to crack down. Listen. Let me show you this article, guys. Remember this? You guys remember this a couple weeks ago? This is nothing new. They already warned us about this. This was back in, let me check the article I'm about to show you. This was back September 3rd. September 3rd. You guys remember this? Facebook moves to limit election chaos in November. This is what we're seeing. This was September 3rd. What we saw today is in reference to what they were already preparing us for early September. This was September 3rd. Facebook moves to limit election chaos in November. The social network said it would block new political ads in late October, among other measures, to reduce misinformation and interference. Have you guys been seeing an uptick of censorship on your own personal accounts? It's interesting because they're going hard after even voters. Tim Pool exposed today that even his own private messages in Facebook are being fact-checked. What the hell? You're the only one that's going to look at that. They want to dictate what you see and what you believe, even in your own messages, your own DMs. That's crazy. They're working overtime. Have you been seeing an uptick on your Facebook groups? Overtime. Everything is getting fact-checked. They probably have oh my God, God only knows. God only knows. People are being censored left and right, not just the big guys, not just the social media personalities, voters. Because they want people to think a certain way. Now remember, they already prepared us for this. San Francisco, Facebook on Thursday moved to clamp down on any confusion. This was the beginning of September. So everything we're seeing, they already even told us. It's like your abuser saying, I'm going to beat the hell out of you tomorrow. So be ready for it. And you just sit there and you're like, okay, see you tomorrow. Like your abuser is already telling you what they're going to do to you, but you still aren't smart enough to get up and leave or do something or fight back. San Francisco, Facebook on Thursday moved to clamp down on any confusion about the November election on its service, rolling out a sweeping set of changes to try to limit voter misinformation, and prevent interference from President Trump and other politicians. In an acknowledgement of how powerful its effect on public discourse can be, Facebook said it planned to bar any new political ads on its site in the week before Election Day. The social network said it would also strengthen measures against posts that tried to dissuade people from voting. Post-election, it said, it will quash any candidate's attempts at claiming false victories by redirecting users to accurate information on the results. Facebook is bracing for what is set to be a highly contentious presidential election with 2 months to go, and it goes on to say that this is what they are planning to do. They let us know in advance what they were going to do, that they were going to go into overtime with their censorship. We are going to be the ones to make sure that you're getting it right. We are going to be the arbiters of truth, but still we're going to deny that we are editors. We're not editors. It's an open source, open space, the public square. That's what they claim to be. They claim to be both. It's like this. They claim to be as if they're like, you know, like a private editor, a biased New York Post, Daily Wire. They can post and say and do whatever they want. If they want to be right wing, they can edit. Let's not say this. Let's not say that. But on the other side, they claim to be the open square, where freedom of speech, and you can say and do whatever you want, and you won't be discriminated for having any kind of opinion or anything like that. It would be like this. Imagine they get to act like both. Imagine if phone services, and this is the direction we're going, imagine if T-Mobile wouldn't give you a contract because they knew you were a Trump supporter. They can't do that because that's discrimination. I mean, not yet at least. But imagine if legally T-Mobile could get away with not signing you a phone contract because you supported Donald Trump. Imagine some of you guys use, I don't know if you're from California, but if you're from California, it's Spectrum Internet. Imagine if when you went to go and you wanted to use Spectrum Internet and you go to sign a contract and they ask you, okay, where do you live? What's your address? What's your your banking information? So we could, direct deposit. Let's get you set up. Excuse me, what is your political bias? Are you a Trump supporter? Imagine if that was a question and that was a determining factor as if to whether or not they would allow you to move forward. Because a news publication can do that. They can be as biased as they want. They can edit their editors. They can edit whatever they want to be said. That's what they do. But Facebook and Twitter do both. This is the problem. They get away with both. This is why Donald Trump wants to repeal Section 230. They need to pick which one do you want to be? If you want to be biased and you want to be an editor like that, then just come out and do that, and you don't get the same laws, you don't get the same passes as if you were not a phone company, Spectrum, because you can't discriminate people like that. It's against the law. You're not an editor. You don't have a bias where you're openly about, you're open about your bias. So when people read your newspaper, Daily Wire doesn't refrain from the fact that they're right-wing and conservative. Breitbart either. They don't sit there and try and hide the fact that they are. CNN does. That's why they're a joke. If CNN were to come out and just be like, okay, look, we're hardcore left wing, so just expect all of our news perspectives and reports to be really left leaning. At least we could be like, okay, we get it, right? You know what you're going to get. You see what I'm saying? Like, at least they would be honest enough to let you know. Fox doesn't shy away. Sometimes they will. But Fox is open. And they do. Tucker Carlson's freaking conservative, right wing. Sean Hannity's conservative, right wing, Laura Ingraham. Like it's out in the open who these people really support. But the point I'm trying to make is Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they get away and they enjoy the perks of being both. They're like a hybrid, which is concerning right now because it does kind of, it deals in the realms of free speech. It deals in the realms of discrimination. And this is when it's becoming a legal problem because just imagine for 2 seconds, if T-Mobile wouldn't allow you to use their phone services because you were a Trump supporter. Would that fly with you? Absolutely not. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that these tech companies have really set themselves up in a way where they can get away with some things that we've never seen before in our world. But they have already let us know that they were going to go in this direction. Facebook already let the world know that all that article means, what I just read to you, all that is saying is we're not going to let a 2016 repeat happen ever again. Trump is never going to be allowed because all those people believe that Trump colluded with Russia, even though their own investigation concluded that he didn't. But they believe it anyways because they believed Hillary Clinton's propaganda. That's what they believe. So I'm trying to get you to connect the dots. Like, I don't care if you agree or disagree with me, politically. Just think about the facts. I'm giving you the facts. You can go find this stuff yourself. Anyone can go research this. Anyone can discover what I'm telling you. What I want you to see and take from this is that as a human being, you have an extremely multi-billion, possibly trillion-dollar, I don't know if they're in the trillions, let's just say billions, social media tech companies that control information through artificial intelligence and even through some humans, fact checkers, that control and dictate the information that you see and that you learn from. The problem you should have with that as a human being is that you have an entity out there right now that wants to control what you see, what you hear, which will actually equate to what you learn and your views. They don't want you to learn for yourself. Is that okay with you? Does it bother you that now your political views are being fact-checked in your freaking DMs, in your private messages on Facebook? That's crazy. Because Facebook turns around and says, okay, well, the reason why we're doing that is because we want you to have accurate information. We want you to believe what we want you to believe. Who's to say that they're the arbiters of truth, that they're the foundation of what's true or what's not? And I call out their hypocrisy and I say that they're not going to be accurate because number one, human beings aren't always honest. And number two, human beings have a political bias. And number three, that all shows in stuff like this. Donald Trump didn't get the same treatment with all of the smears and conspiracy theories that were launched his way the past 4 years. I didn't see Facebook coming out and saying, we have to make sure that this stuff is true, so we're not going to allow it on the internet until we can confirm that this is true so that you can read it and digest it so it's safe. I have never in my life seen Facebook go to Donald Trump's aid like that. But Joe Biden gets it. Why? Because they want to win the election, period. Smart. The Democrat Party has weaponized social media, big tech. It even goes further than the Democrat Party. It goes way further than this. I know a lot of leftists, Black Lives Matter, and people on the left, they might think, okay, well, our side has power because we can pretty much dictate because, we have the upper hand. Okay, well, now you're freaking authoritarian. Because if you don't allow me to think what I want to think, if you don't allow me to believe what I want to believe, if you don't allow me to read what I want to read, then that is not freedom. If I can't think for myself and you have to filter what I see and what I study, that is propaganda. That is fascism. That is an authoritarian regime. This is why they burn books. This This is why communist regimes burn books. This is why the Nazis burned books. This is why the Nazi population was only allowed to listen and to view certain things. This is why you go to North Korea right now, they're only allowed to watch what the state allows them to watch. This is how this works. And here we are. Here we are. Whenever you're not allowed to think, read, study, learn, see, intake information for yourself, if it has to be filtered by a government for you and to you, that is a problem. Anti-big government. 100%. This is why conservatives are less government, more freedom, more independence in the context of morality and righteousness, right? Nobody's going to sit here and say, oh, you should advocate. You know what I'm saying? We're not advocating for violence. The point I'm trying to make is there's clearly a huge agenda right now. And we've all known this. I just don't want people to be surprised by these things that I'm telling you. Because big tech already made it very clear that they were going to do this. It's very interesting because we live in a time where people they don't even want to hide anymore. They're just out in the open with everything that's coming out with Clinton, everything that came out with Benghazi, everything that's coming out with, Biden knowing and Osama bin Laden, all this stuff that's coming out. It's getting to the point where they're so arrogant where people are like, who cares if it comes out? Hillary Clinton's classified emails on her server, home server, all the pornographic child porn that was found on Anthony Weiner. You guys remember this in 2016 on his laptop, a Clinton administrator. But now it's getting to the point where these people are just like, they just don't care because they're so arrogant because they know that nothing's going to happen. It's like Black Lives Matter. The reason why they go out and riot and burn everything is because they know there's going to be no consequence. If there's no hammer to drop, if there's no consequence to violent criminal actions, regardless if you're an elite, if you are a middleman, or you are socially on the bottom of the totem pole, if we are not all equally held accountable to law and order, then we don't have stability. Especially if our lawmakers are not held accountable. People think they're invisible. Yeah, literally invisible. But they definitely think they're invincible. That they can get away, they can say, they can do whatever it is that they please. And this is where we are. This is why I say it's really no surprise to me. And that's why I showed you that second article, because I wanted you guys to see that there was no surprise. It should be no shock that this is where we are. And I like to point out the hypocrisies, not for shock value. And it's like, oh my God, I get it. Hypocrite blue. You know what I mean? And it's like, the reason why I point these things out is because I'm fully aware that there are people watching that cannot see this stuff. And that's what concerns me. And I think that's what people would call a red pill moment, right? Where you're introduced something, a truth that you never even saw or heard in your life. And your eyes are like, whoa, right? And that's kind of what we're going for here is, a red pill moment isn't necessarily like a Republican thing. It's like comes from the Matrix, right? You're pulled out of a simulation by taking the red pill. It's just ironic that it's red and blue, right? But to take the red pill, dude, to get red pilled isn't necessarily like a Republican thing. It's not like, oh, you got like Republican pilled. Because Republicans don't always tell the truth. Mitt Romney. What am I saying? What I'm saying is a red pill moment is a moment where you get unplugged, unjacked out of a fake simulation. because of a heavy dose of truth. So when I say I go for red pills, that's what I'm talking about. It's true. Yeah. Like the gospel, you know, it's a dose of truth has the ability, obviously, to either wake the mind up, sober the mind, or numb the mind. Now we're going to get theological. The more one rejects and rejects and rejects the truth, the more one becomes numb and numb and numb to that very truth because of their pride, because of their arrogance. They want to deny what's real. So they keep their numb, fake reality intact. And this is where we are right now. And this is what I want people to just take away from tonight is this bombshell that was dropped. This is election interference. Why do they get to interfere in the election? Why do they get to dictate what's true and what's not? Why do they get to take down links that might not be 100% correct off of the face of the internet when it's their candidate? But if they're so unbiased and they're arbiters of truth, the truth has no bias other than itself in the context of whatever side it finds itself on. Does that make sense to you? The truth can be on the left. The truth can be on the right. The truth could be above you. The truth could be under you. The truth could be right in front of your face or behind you. The truth doesn't need to be on my side. I need to be on the truth side. And that's where I want to be. Because someday, the Republican Party can go down the path of Adolf Hitler. Just as much as the Democrat Party is going down the path of Joseph Stalin today. What side do I want to be on? I just want to be on the side of truth. I don't want the truth on my side. I want to be on the truth side, because if I'm on the side of truth, then I will always be accurate. I will always be right, and I'll always be in the right spot. And I think that's a good way to live. That's a good way to live in policy and politics, and obviously the truth, the way, the truth, and life, which is Christ Jesus himself. Now we're eternally speaking. You better make sure you're on that side of truth. What I'm saying is, we live in a time where you need to seriously be thinking for yourself, and you need to be dissecting what these people are doing to you. Listen, if Donald Trump and the Trump administration, I have tons of criticisms of the Trump administration. Tons. Things that could have been done, things that shouldn't have been done, things that he should have said, things that he hasn't said. There's tons of things, tons of criticisms that I don't think the Trump administration is really doing well, but nobody's perfect. What am I saying? What I'm saying is if Donald Trump if there was sufficient evidence to prove that Donald Trump colluded with Russia, I would be the first to say, get him out of there. But it wasn't so. Because I don't want a president that is based off of a lie and corruption. We'll never get a perfect president. But what I'm trying to say is we have to filter and we have to make decisions. And we have to analyze and observe everything based off of the foundation of what is true and what is accurate. And the point I'm trying to make is these people are trying to be that for you, and that's dangerous. They will allow you to see what they want you to see. They will allow you to read what they want you to read. They will allow you to listen to what they want you to listen. If they think something is true, if they say that the sky is green and that's their truth, then that is their damn truth. And that's what you are going to believe and see. Is that a way to live? I would say, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, no. And that's the point I wanted to make. So I'm going to take a couple super chats with you guys tonight before I head out. I like to do super chats at the end of every single show. If you would like to get your question answered, it could be about Biden. It could be about this election interference. that's coming from the very people that claim to be protecting us from election interference. I mean, if you really think about it, we are going to protect you all from election interference, but we are going to be the ones to interfere in the election because we have such power to do so. And if we don't want you to believe something, if we don't want you to read something, if we don't want you to hear something because we believe that it's going to interfere in the election, then we will do so because we have the power. We will interfere in the election because we're the arbiters of truth. And you guys can't do anything or say anything. Let us think for you and present information for you. That's where we are right now in 2020. It's moronic. It's scary. But we have a couple super chats. So if you guys would like to leave a super chat below, you can. I'm going to get to a couple of them before I head out and go to dinner. Let me pull up a couple right here. I have a couple of super chats. Thank you guys for tuning in this long. I really appreciate. My son appreciates it. All the proceeds go to helping us with our endeavors, our reporting, our social media outreaches, traveling. We are invested in this. This is full time for me. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everything that you guys do, especially financially and all the love. So. Let me get to a couple of these super chats tonight before I head out. Let me pull these up. Here we go. Okay, Michael Garza. Michael Garza, thank you for the super chat, my brother. Joe was holding $1 billion from Ukraine to fire the prosecutor. And that's the point I've been railing home all night. Joe Biden was holding a significant amount of money from the Ukrainian government, or he was threatening them unless they would do something for him. He's on film saying this. And Donald Trump was the one that was accused of doing that with no evidence. Zero. But we have video evidence of Joe Biden as the sitting vice president of the United States doing that. Nothing. That's why I say truth. Truth matters. Apply truth in that situation. Is that right? Or is that wrong? It's wrong. Michael, what is that? Michael Gallimore. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Michael Gallimore, thank you for the super chat. Do you think there will be a civil war after this? Now, I got to be careful with what I say because I'm on YouTube and I can't really say whatever they don't want me to say, but I do that anyways, and that's probably why my channel is so deboosted. But I got to do what I got to do. Do I think that a civil war will happen? I think the possibility is high. I will say, and I've been saying this, is I think whatever the election results will be in November right now, if Trump wins, civil unrest. If Trump loses, he'll challenge the election results because of the amount of evidence of mail-in ballots and election fraud that's taking place. It's growing and growing. He'll challenge it, civil unrest. So, I mean, what that's going to lead to, will it lead to a physical civil war? I mean, I will never say never to anything at this point. Because if you would have told me 2020, like if you would have sat me down in like 2018 and was like, Drew, 2020, coronavirus, 2 impeachments. Like if Joe Biden was going to be the nominee, Kamala, like if you would have told me everything that's unfolded in 2020, back in 2018, I would have thought you were crazy. So that's why, and the riots and the mass defunding the police, like I wouldn't have believed you. But that's why I say at this point, nothing surprises me. And our lawlessness and our violence in our country has escalated very quickly. It's not normal, you guys. It's not normal to be where we are right now. It's not normal with the mass riots and the looting, the murder, to defund the police. This has happened in under a year. That's not normal. Something's happening to our culture, to our morality. We have declined, obviously, the past few decades. But now we're seeing the totality of what that looks like because of doing so. What happens when a generation forsakes, I mean, okay, we can have the theological conversation. What happens when a generation forsakes God? Romans 1. We see the moral depravity. We see violence, the social depravity. It goes into sexual identity. It goes into the perversion of marriage, and it goes to absolute confusion and depravity. The society doesn't know who the hell they are or what direction they're going. Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? I can give you the social argument or the social, breakdown, which could be what happens when a society forsakes truth and morals. You get 2020 America. You get the same thing. It's the same thing. What happens when a society forsakes truth and morality? You get 2020, where people justify the killing of innocent black police officers like David Dorn in a Black Lives Matter riot because it was for Black Lives Matter. That's not normal. There is no justifiable reason for that situation. There should never be an innocent black police officer or former police officer, David Dorn, that's killed for nothing. There's never a situation where that's justifiable because Black Lives Matter will say, oh, well, it was for a Black Lives Matter rally, or it wasn't Black Lives Matter. I guess it was. But now we've become so depraved that people are not only trying to justify it, but they have justified it as if it's normal. It's not normal. None of this is normal. I'll tell you right now, none of this is normal. Let's see if we have any more super chats before I head out, guys. Thank you guys for all the love. I want to thank you guys for the comments, even DMs that I get from you guys, like on Instagram. Make sure that you guys are following me on Instagram. Make sure you're following me. Instagram Lives Matter Official and Parler Lives Matter Official. Make sure to be following me on Facebook Lives Matter. Obviously, here on YouTube, Lives Matter. But make sure to follow me on all those platforms: Instagram, Parler, Facebook, YouTube, and the list goes on. Obviously, Twitter Lives Matter Show. So when I'm reporting in real time, you guys will get all that stuff, and I will be hitting the field soon. Just been waiting on a couple things. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I will be seeing you guys next time. Now, remember, the show times for this podcast are Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. PST, which is 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every single night, regardless of where I am, if I'm traveling, if I'm at home, we have the mobile studio and we have the home studio. So this podcast will remain. If I am reporting, let's say I go to like Seattle or Portland or New York and I'm reporting during the show time, I will run the podcast the following morning. So if you guys ever don't see this podcast on like the show time and you're like, what's going on? It's probably because I'm reporting. And you should be watching my reporting on Twitter on that night. But always know that the podcast will air the following morning on those type of nights. And if I ever do some kind of emergency podcast, you'll know about it. That's why you got to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and all my other platforms. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. And always remember, guys, always remember, stay free, stay American. And if you're in a different country, just it's okay to be a nationalist, right? It's okay. It's okay. Stay free. Until next time, America, I'll see you on the other side. Peace.